A 45-minute train ride north of Paris, and has been a very important wine-producing region in the world for hundreds and hundreds of years, but they started making champagne there around the mid-1800s is when they figured out how to keep bubbles in the bottle. So now, and that's we could do a whole show just on champagne. But
how big of a region is it?
It's pretty big. Okay. It's a large region where they make, I can't remember, maybe 10 million, maybe more, 10 million bottles a year.
And we're going to pay more for a champagne than we will a sparkling.
Well, sure.
Okay.
And, it shouldn't be. You can get a nice champagne on the low end at $35, $40 retail. And Mum is one of my favorites, right in that price point.
And that is a true champagne. That is not a sparkling.
Right. And so true champagne, by law, has to be a sparkling wine, and it has to come from Champagne.
Okay. Now, a sparkling wine, is it going to taste like a champagne?
Well, it could. It could. So California sparkling wine, there's many that are really nice. Eventually, I want to talk about Belglas Blanc de Blanc, and that's a term that we'll talk about. Okay. But they just introduced, Joe Wagner just introduced his sparkling wine that just got into the market. And so you are going to get those same kind of flavors that you would get from a champagne to a certain extent because it's made like that. But of course, they can't. You use the term brut, which we can talk about.
Yes, I'm going to need to because this is very confusing and why you have a job forever.
Right. That's the best thing. Beyond, until I'm in my 90s, till I can still speak. But but then you look at it to make it even more confusing, because I think Corbel from California, I think they may still use that term, but they've been making sparkling wine since way before Prohibition, and even before many champagne houses have.
Really?
So I think they're grandfathered in on that terminology for at least one of their wines.
Okay. Does a sparkling and a champagne have the same amount of bubbles?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay.
About 90 pounds of pressure. So this holiday season, when you're opening those bottles, keep your thumb on that cork. Yeah.
Always. And don't aim it at anyone.
Could really hurt somebody. And don't saber it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Don't try to cut it with a knife and do something that you've seen in a movie.
There's a story about Mary singing at a wedding for somebody, and the groom did that and almost cut his thumb off at the reception. So don't do it.
No.
You can do it, but
no, let's don't.
It's not a beginner activity, and certainly not after you're drinking.
Yeah, that's a great possible thumb-saving tip.
Yes.
As far as that goes. All right, let's talk about what pairs well with a sparkling wine. Is this something that you actually pair with the meal, or is this more appetizers and the fruits and the cheeses?
Here's what I like about sparkling wines and champagnes is if you can get it to where it's dry versus sweet. That dry, either rosé sparkling or white sparkling wine can go with just about anything that you're serving. Now, it's going to pair better with some things and other cheese and seafood and things like that you're serving. And if you're putting out wings, well, it will go with them if you try the extra dry that has a little sweetness. But it is a pretty versatile wine. You can do a whole pairing dinner, people do with sparkling wine or champagne, because it's such a good food-friendly type of wine.
Do the bubbles affect the flavor of the food?
Well, no, not necessarily the actual bubbles, even though I guess they could, because you're going to have that on your palate when you're tasting the food as well. I think it's really more the production method.
Got it.
And so just really briefly think about this. So you make a champagne, you make a still wine, you put it in the bottle, and you put a little yeast and sugar, and they put it in the cellar for about a year or so, and it sits there and ages on that yeast that has now died and made the bubbles, and so it gets sort of a brioche pastry or baked bread flavor and aroma. Just so we can describe what those flavors are.
Okay, now let me ask you this: does a sparkling wine pair with the exact same things as, say, a white wine, Or is it two different things?
Well, I think there's a lot of crossover, yes.
Okay.
There's a lot of crossover. You can be safe pairing it that way, but I think there's some differences as well. But
All right.
I don't want to overcomplicate it. So just say yes. Pairing white wine, like a Chardonnay, Pinot Grigio, Sauvignon Blanc, and a champagne, white champagne, not a rosé, pretty close.
Before we get to the actual foods, let's also break down the different types. So we mentioned champagne, that's a region. Sparkling wines can then also be broken down into Prosecco, to Cava. What is the difference?
Or this other one that I put in front of you that
I have no idea how
never
to
heard of.
say. I've never even seen it. Franciacorta?
Yeah, very good. Franciacorta. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a place in Italy. And we'll probably hear a little bit more about Franciacorta next year when they talk about the Olympics, because it is made a couple of hours south of Milan in a region in central Lombardy, which is right there where the Olympics is going to happen. So I'll
that
bet
too
you
is a place?
it's a place.
So in
And
Italy,
it has to be a sparkling wine, and it's made just like champagne, and it's amazing.
do we see those on our shelves here locally very often?
There's a couple available, but hardly ever. You'd have to look for it.
Really?
And
Or-
nobody can pronounce it. So
No, I was going to say maybe doesn't even know what it is, but that's
Yeah.
why we're here every Sunday night at 6:00.
if you want to drink like the Olympians after they get their gold medals, that's what you should be drinking, along with some other things that I can suggest. Prosecco comes from 3 or 4 hours east of there in the hills outside of Venice.
So it is also an Italian.
It's an Italian, by law, an Italian sparkling wine. They're made very differently. So just briefly, Franciacorta will have that 5 or 6 atmospheres of pressure like a champagne.
Okay.
Prosecco has about 2, so half the amount of bubbles.
And then what is Cava?
Well, cava is the Spanish version of champagne. Can't be called champagne, so they call it cava.
So that's not a region. That's just the name they've given it.
The region is called Penedès, and it sits right next to Barcelona. But the one big difference is they use their own grapes. They've got some grapes there that are indigenous to that region they use. They use a little bit of Chardonnay, but like Franciacorta, they use Chardonnay and Pinot Noir.
Okay. I was just going to ask what kind of grapes are typically used for a sparkling wine.
Prosecco is a grape called Galera.
Okay.
And so you will either see sparkling wine made with either French grapes, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, or with local grapes if they're appropriate for sparkling, if they can handle it. Chardonnay and Pinot Noir are good workhorse sparkling wine grapes. So they're used a lot, like in Northern California.
What takes longer to make, a sparkling wine or a Chardonnay?
Well, the sparkling wine, because it has to go through that second fermentation process.
Got it.
And a lot of people say to me, I'll say like, oh, have you ever had a Pinot Noir as a white wine? And most people say no. And then I'll say, well, I'm sure you have. Have you ever had champagne? Yes. Well, then you've most likely had Pinot Noir as a white wine.
And a real champagne or a sparkling wine?
In a real champagne.
Okay.
And many times in a sparkling wine. Sorry, confusing.
There's so much to know. So let's talk about Brut and Extra Brut, because this one, we've been doing our show on Friday afternoons at about 4:20 for now, more than 5 years. Brut and Extra Brut still gets me hung up every single time.
Brut is dry. Extra dry is a little bit sweet. That's
Why?
great job security.
It's so confusing.
In think about the roaring 20s, and people drinking back then and partying, in Europe before, we had prohibition here, but the French were making champagne and most of it was going to England and to Paris, and everybody kept saying, well, we love it, but it's not dry enough for us. And the champagne producers had called that extra dry champagne. It was the driest they made. We want it drier, their consumers said at that time period. So they went back to the drawing board. They figured out how to make it drier. They called it Brut. And so they started sending that out, but they never changed the name of extra dry because everybody knew back then Brut was going to be drier.
Okay.
And nowadays we make something called either Brut Nature or Brut Zero, which means the driest. Like there's barely any sugar at all.
Really?
In that Brut Nature, yeah.
Okay, fascinating. So now let's talk about what pairs well with a sparkling wine or a champagne.
So first of all, the label means a lot. So you should be looking at where your sparkling wine comes from. And remember that we make a lot of sparkling wine here in the U.S. that's carbonated like a soda would be.
Which is different than the way they do it in Italy or France.
Right. And that's okay. It's a lot cheaper. And that's okay for mimosas and things like that.
Got
okay.
it.
So remember that. That's not made in any way like what we're describing.
So is that something you can find on a label?
Well, no.
You just have to know what you're buying.
If you look at the underneath the bottle where the little price tag is, that'll tell you if it's carbonated.
Okay.
Because it will be, $6 a bottle versus $35 a bottle. And I'm not being critical.
But that's one of the
differences. But just know what you're getting into. So then the next thing is you look at, okay, where does it come from? That can be a little confusing. It come from France or Italy or Spain or another country or Missouri. We make a lot of great sparkling wines here in Missouri. And then the next thing you should look at is the terminology, like Brut if it's used or extra dry. And then if you really still want to, dig in or you're not sure, look at the alcohol content. Higher alcohol, drier, lower alcohol, sweeter. But just remember that a typical Moscato Asti Spumante, it used to be called, or Moscato d'Asti, is going to have a lot of sugar and would, consider that when you're pairing it because that won't work if you're pairing lighter seafood dishes and things like that.
All right, you mentioned something earlier, Blanc de Blanc. What does that mean?
White wine from white grapes. So that would tell you that Chardonnay was the only grape variety used if it's from a champagne. Blanc de Noir means white wine from red grapes.
Okay.
So that would tell you that it's only Pinot Noir used or red grape. And that terminology is also used in the U.S. as well as other places in Italy and in Spain to give you a little bit more information about your wine.
Okay, and then you mentioned earlier Spumante or the Moscato d'Asti. That's what we shouldn't start with. That's going to be are those dessert wines?
Do I sound too critical when I say that?
No, it's very knowledgeable, and that's what we're looking for, I think.
I think I had one that I tasted with my class at Mizzou last week, and this is the only wine I've given them that they've all actually liked.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, usually I have them because it's a class, right?
Right.
And I shouldn't say that. They're pretty
They're
open.
learning.
Yeah, they're learning. They're
That's
open
right.
to it. But it is going to be sweet. So if we want to talk about, technically pairing with food, we want to do this right and pair it with food. It's not going to pair as a beginning wine with lighter foods that you might serve as an appetizer. And all it's going to do is coat people's palate with a bunch of sugar. So whatever you serve for the first and second course or go to other wines, you can have all that sugar you're going to have to get through. It's just so much better as an ending wine.
So general rule of thumb, when we're talking sparkling wine, for most of us, that's going to be kind of the, not the first course, but maybe the appetizers when everybody's coming in the door. Maybe you're going to have some strawberries and a couple grapes and a cheese or two. That's
Right.
where you're going to have your sparkling.
If you want to make it super simple, you
I
email
do.
me, or you just say Prosecco in the beginning, Moscato at the end, and anything else in between is going to be fine. Just remember to look at that label and look for the word Prosecco.
All right. So we've got our appetizer covered. We're going to take a short break and we're going to talk about pairing with Thanksgiving dinner, at least that first course coming up after a short break. You're listening to Uncorked with Ward on Wine and Heidi Glaus on the Big 550 KTRS St. Louis. All right. It's time to talk Thanksgiving dinner. And this is kind of all over the board. Obviously, a lot of people have turkey, but you have so many side dishes when we're talking about Thanksgiving dinner. So when we're starting to think about pairing, do you pair with those side dishes, the mashed potatoes and gravy, the green beans, or do you really focus on the turkey?
It's the most fun meal of the year to pair wine with food. And, the first thing I would tell you is if you can, have 2 glasses out. I don't think one
enough.
type of wine is not enough, and 1 bottle of wine is certainly not enough. But have some options for people because there's so much diversity. And you could say, oh, the turkey, the stuffing, the potatoes, the gravy, those are all pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
You've got that kind of creamy, buttery, the poultry. Unless you're making your turkey, which is a side note, with some kind of rub or sauce.
Oh.
Or now you've kind of thrown it off maybe a little bit. But typically a Chardonnay, a Sauvignon Blanc, would pair
with
well
all of those things.
with all of that. But
and then are you safer to have like a Pinot Noir on the table as far as a red one? Is that, or should you go a little bit bigger?
So Pinot Noir is perfect. Something from Oregon, maybe, Northern California. There's a lot of options. Burgundy, you can send me an email. I'll help you figure it out. Or you can come see me at Schnucks to Pair on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I'll be there all day, and I'll help you right there in the aisle, and I'll have a bunch of stuff open you can taste. But that's another story. We'll get there the day before Thanksgiving. So, that's a possibility. Or have you ever had Beaujolais?
Yes, I have. We're talking up 70, right? Is that...
You're thinking of something different. I'm talking about the Beaujolais region of France and the Gamay.
I'm thinking about that little winery.
Les Bourgeois.
Yes.
Which they have great wine there.
Okay, so no, apparently I haven't.
The region of Beaujolais.
Where is Beaujolais?
Underneath Burgundy before you get to the Rhone region.
Okay.
And the reason why I bring that up is they make Nouveau, Beaujolais Nouveau, which, is Gamay is the grape variety. And I've just been seeing a lot that region is getting a lot of notoriety, and it's kind of coming back, and there's new renaissance for that grape, and it's a wonderful pairing with just about everything you've got out on the table.
All right.
It is a red wine.
Let's talk just for a second. When we talk pairing, and this is, I think, what has always stumped me a little. When you want to taste all of it, you want the best of whatever the food is, and you want the best of that wine, what is the way to kind of do it? Do you take a bite of your turkey and then immediately grab your glass of wine and, for a lack of better terms, wash it down with that? Or do you have a sip of your wine and then grab the turkey?
Yeah, I think food, wine, food is a good way to do it.
And the same food, not turkey, sip of wine, green beans.
Well, yeah, yes, right, right. That's a good way to put it. But then I'm going to have 2 glasses, a white and a red at the table. So I'm going to do food, white, food, red, food.
Okay.
I'm making it too complicated.
No, I think that is what needs to be explained, because that's one of the things about food pairing that I don't think I've ever really gotten.
Can I say something real quick? So the wine should be considered part of the Thanksgiving meal and not just there to kind of sway you from the uncomfortable family conversations. It should be there intentionally.
Okay.
It is not a secondary component. That wine has a job. And the job of that wine is to make sure that food that you spent hours and hours preparing tastes even better.
Got it. Okay, speaking of, you had an interesting story off air about somebody reaching out to you about their menu. And the menu is something that probably needs to be thought about in a different way than we've all thought about it before.
Yeah, so this just happened, and please, if you are preparing or planning for a holiday get-together, you can email me, mike@wardonwine.com. I love to help people.
You really
with this
do.
Context.
He's not just saying that, you guys. This is like, it's his happy place. It's his passion.
It's a mental problem. But there was a group that's planning a holiday get-together for an organization at a country club. And it's a big deal.
Right.
And they emailed me, here's a menu that we're looking at. And I look, can you pair some wines with it? And I just today was looking at this, and it's it's important. I want to make sure I get it right.
Right.
So I'm looking at it, 6 courses, and I emailed them back and I said, now you realize that every one of these courses is a white wine paired with this. And they came back and said, well, we didn't realize that, and we kind of like red wines. So Then we had to go back and sort of rework.
The entire menu.
Yeah, because everything from appetizer to dessert of 6 courses, what they originally sent me, I'd be doing them a disservice if I added a red wine to any of that. So okay, we look at how do you do that? Well, there's a pasta, and then maybe we switched over to a red sauce.
Got it.
They had a sea bass fillet, for the entree, and I said, well, maybe consider a fillet or meat. And they were like, well, can we do both? Well, yeah, we can kind of work that out. But you know, the way they had it was strictly white wine. So you have to think about that, because that's many times that's a secondary thought. Mm-hmm. First thought is, I want to have some lobster ravioli. I want to have some, things that would pair perfect, that they like to eat.
Lobster ravioli sounds really good right now.
But you can't do that with a Napa Cab or something like that.
Right. So does it matter if it's a creamy sauce versus an olive oil base?
100%. Yeah, that matters. And
Okay.
Or a red sauce, or I mean, you can kind of stretch with olive oil base or the creamy sauce, but it's really 2 different wines.
Okay.
They're 2 different white wines, but it's 2 different wines.
So before you get too deep in the weeds on what you're cooking this Thanksgiving, maybe consider, if this is important to you, the wines that are going to go with it, and you might want to tweak your menu a little bit.
Well, but yeah, and you can also think a dinner like this that I just described is a dedicated coursed dinner. Mm-hmm. You can have 1 course cleared, another course is going to come down. Where Thanksgiving is usually all the food's out on the table
True.
at the same time.
Yeah.
So that you do approach those in a different way.
Got it.
But, nowadays for any meal, you really don't have to think 1 wine for the whole meal, because it's going to go well with something and it's not going to go well with something else.
Okay, so let's go back to our Thanksgiving dinner. And let's say we have turkey and dressing and potatoes. What's going on that table beside those 3 things?
Well, cranberry, sauce, or that can.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, some
do you do
people,
that, or do
you know what? I stay away from it.
Yeah.
I'd rather have beets
Oh,
than
okay.
cranberries, but
Well,
that's
similar
my
pairing.
thing. Okay.
Right. Yeah, similar pairing. So the cranberry, you can do a red wine. The Pinot Noir that you have is going to match okay. If you do that Beaujolais and do the Gamay, it's going to match okay. A Napa Cab, not so much.
Okay.
I love Napa Cabs. I know you and I have talked about them.
I do too.
Zinfandel and blends and stuff like that, they're really good. They're not going to match, but I can tell you how to fit them in later on as we kind of go through this. So remind me, I'll tell you how to fit one of those in.
I will be just waiting.
But with the cranberry, and you could do, I talk about swirl a lot. That cranberry, lemon, rosemary swirl would be good.
Yes.
With the cranberry sauce. But it's a stretch. It can go well with the turkey as well. So you do have some options there.
All right. And is there any place for our sweeter wines?
Well, the thing about sweet wine that I always tell people is it's overlooked. And the other thing to consider is you're having people over and you may not know exactly what everybody drinks. So if you go, oh, this is perfect, I'm going to have my Chardonnay, my Pinot Noir, or I'm going to do a Missouri local dish and do my Chamberson and my Vignole, okay?
Yeah.
And then that's fine. But all of a sudden you got somebody sitting there thinking, I wish I could enjoy this because all I drink is sweet wine. So having an option for them, a Riesling on the table or a Missouri option with like a blended Missouri white wine that might be on the sweeter side is okay. But remember, it's not going to pair with everything. But if it's for that person or a couple of people at the table.
What about dessert? And I'm not talking about dessert wines now. I'm talking about we've got the pecan pie. Maybe it is apple pie. Maybe it's pumpkin pie. Is there a wine that goes with those?
Absolutely. And also remember that wine I just described for that person at your table for the entree portion is not a dessert wine.
Got it.
You need to get a wine that's semi-sweet and not
a
just put
dessert
the
wine.
Moscato out for them. They'll love it. You're going to mess with their palate. So
And
then,
a semi-sweet wine is what? Give me a couple examples.
well, a Riesling that
Okay.
is maybe 8 to 9% alcohol. There's some Missouri wines that kind of fit into that category. Send me an email and I'll help you find some that are right in the middle.
Okay.
The Riesling's an easy one, because it's not
Are all Rieslings in a blue bottle?
No, there's plenty in green or brown bottle, and that's depending on the region.
Got it. Does it say something about it? If it's a green or blue bottle, it's just what the company has come up with.
Sort of. It used to be that Riesling from the Mosel region, I think those were green, and the Rheingau and Rhine-Hessen regions were brown. I think that's what it used to be. That's kind of thrown out nowadays.
Got it.
Because the blue bottle is from everywhere, so
it's taken over.
But for dessert, pumpkin pie, you could do a port with that.
Oh.
I would do like a tawny port and pumpkin pie. You could do that. I think a lot of people would like that. Or another type of port. That's fine. I'll help you find one. And
while we're on the subject, remind us all, what's the difference in a tawny port and just a port?
We need to do a port show.
Because I don't know anything about port.
Really quick, ruby ports are fruity, and you have the color, and that's where it got its name, ruby color. They're very fruity.
Okay.
And tawny ports have a little bit more, they're lighter in color, but they have a little bit more caramel, butterscotch notes.
Got
so
it.
I think it would be a good pairing with a pumpkin pie. Or if you can find one, you can do the Trockenbeeren Auslese.
What now? God bless you.
Oh, of course. Again, this is why I still have a job. Trockenbeeren Auslese, which is a style of wine from Germany. It's one of the most beautiful dessert wines in the world. And it's really interesting. Sauternes is the same version from France, from Bordeaux. It's a little easier to say. But those are wines that I would say harder to find. Reach out to me. I'll help you find.
All right. And again, it's Mike@wardonwine.com. If you have any questions at any time, because Mike is always available. He makes himself available because he loves wine and he loves introducing people to something new.
Yeah. And I know some of this is complicated. We don't want to make it complicated. It doesn't have to be snobby. It doesn't have to be an ego thing. But sometimes I think nowadays what I see is people just want something nice and they're willing to pay a little bit more for it.
Yes.
But they get, if they see the word Trockenbeeren Auslese, that's not several words. It's one word, one German word. And you're going to serve it to your guests. And they're, what is that? Well, this is our German dessert wine,
Yeah.
But remember how I said a few minutes ago, you want to do that Napa Cab? You could just go off the grid and do a chocolate dessert.
With a Napa Cab?
You could, as an idea.
Okay.
Maybe everybody wouldn't like it because you're expecting the pumpkin pie. But if you're like, I got to have my Napa Cab because I love them.
Chocolate is always the pairing.
Yeah. So think about it. Would you do that or what?
Absolutely, I would do that. Now, let me ask you one more thing, and this is really going off the grid. What if you didn't have dessert at all? I know. But did like a White Russian or another kind of drink to top the evening off?
I think it's an excellent choice. Take into consideration how you're feeling. Want to be safe.
With the rest of these drinks.
Right. But you can replace the dessert with just an after-dinner cordial cocktail or something like that.
So I
on
said
the sweeter
White
side.
Russian. What are a couple other options when it comes to an after-dinner drink?
I mean, if you look or email me and I'll give you these. There's some port cocktails that are kind of nice.
Okay.
You could do like cognac or something like that because those are going to be sweet.
Okay.
There's also some cocktails that you could do with those as the base. There are there's too many options nowadays for that sweet style cocktail.
Which is why you're here for us. The other thing,
sherry too, like a cream sherry, not a dry sherry, but a cream.
Gosh. The thing that I love about Europe, because I don't necessarily have a sweet tooth. It's why I like the bigger, bolder cabs. It's why I like the drier wines. But when we were over there on our trip, and a little bit we'll tell you about a couple of other options you have coming up if you want to do some traveling with Mike Ward. I love that Europe finishes not with a dessert, but with cheese.
Well, yeah. And that's another great option. And go back to the sparkling wine.
Yeah.
Now dinner's over, plates are cleared, the cheese course comes out, you open up another bottle of champagne or domestic sparkling wine, and now you're ready to go. And then make sure you got that Uber app, and you're all good.
You are good. All right. Hopefully you are enjoying our chat on wine pairings for Thanksgiving, which is going to be here before we know it. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll also offer some suggestions on maybe that hostess gift. If you want to bring a wine and you don't know anything about it, what is just a safe option? We'll talk about that after a short break. You're listening to Uncorked with Word on Wine and Heidi Glaus on the Big 550 KTRS. Isn't that a beautiful sound? The pouring of wine into a glass.
I like it.
I do too.
My favorite sound, I think.
Yeah, it's a good one. So we've talked about pairing. We've talked about sparkling wines. Let's talk about just some easy go-to wines. If you're going to go over to a friend's house for dinner, or if you are going to a little party and you want to take a house guest gift, to the hostess gift, I should say, is there just a standard, this is a great option and most people are going to be pleased with it?
So after years and years of helping people over the holidays do exactly this thing, I've noticed one trend, and that is it's the last minute, it's party starting at 6, you're in the grocery store at 5:55, and you're talking to me, you're like, I got to bring something, and you put zero thought into it. I can help you if I'm there. What if I'm not there? And I think sometimes people go, oh, well, I'm just going to bring a wine that is easy and quick, and I know I like it.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay to do.
But some people, I'm going to use my mother again, or my sister, who don't really drink wine. They have no idea even where to go and look. And so is there a price point that you can't go wrong with?
I'd say it is the 15 on the low side, 25 on the high side.
Okay.
You do not need to, unless you specifically, it's my boss's house, I'm in a tux, or I'm in a cocktail dress or whatever, and I got to go the champagne route. Champagne's pretty easy choice in that, because everybody's going to, or many people are going to like it, and it's going to show quality. But I think just a family get-together or, with friends or whatever, that price point is pretty good. You can go a little higher. You don't have to really go much higher than $25, $30.
But you're not going to embarrass yourself. It's not like you're walking in with a $3 bottle of wine and they're going to kind of look at you and go, oh,
or
really?
A box under your arm or something like that. Yeah, which is okay for some
Absolutely.
events. But I think where people get hung up is, okay, well, now what do I do? White or red?
Right.
I think in general, a red blend is a nice choice, because you think about, if you want to go Cabernet, unless you know that they're serving some steaks, but if it's a cocktail party, you're not going to know that. That wine is too extreme. I hate to say that. People love it. I do too. You do.
Right. But not everybody does.
Not everybody does.
Yeah.
And then for white wines, a Sauvignon Blanc is a nice choice because it's right in the middle. Because you might have somebody, Chardonnay, but that's got some oak to it. Or it might not. I don't know because I didn't try it. So Sauvignon Blanc is a good safe choice. Pinot Grigio, I love them. They're a little light.
Got it. And Sauvignon Blanc, it seems like New Zealand is kind of a safe space to get a Sauvignon Blanc. They seem to know that wine really well.
And they're good values. So that $15 Sauvignon Blanc will taste like a $25 Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand.
Why is that?
Because it's just such a great place to grow grapes and make wine. You
can't mess it up.
You would have to really work hard to mess up your New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. So and Pinot Noir is okay too, but I know like Mary doesn't like Pinot Noir, so I don't gravitate towards that too much. I love it, but that's not necessarily to me a safe choice. That's more specific choice.
Got it.
So the red blend is a good one. Prisoner, whatever, that's a little expensive, but, in that price range.
People are going to be impressed by it.
Well, they will, sure, and everybody should like it.
Yeah.
If you'd only drink sweet wine, you're not going to like it.
But for the general rule of thumb, that's going to go over really well.
Risky choices would be a Moscato.
Okay.
Or having to bend over to the bottom shelf it's okay, but I don't want to. I'm not a wine snob, but
the cheaper wines are on the bottom, so maybe look at the middle of the shelf.
Yeah, the bottom shelf wines are some really good ones.
Mm-hmm.
We could do a whole show on those wines, but to me, those are more like drink them at home.
Got it.
With your people you live with in the same house.
So I kind of mentioned in our previous segment that there's some options for travel, and you have a great trip coming up with Altair Travel and Cruises. Tell people about it in case they haven't heard.
I'm thinking this might be the best trip we've ever had. For one thing, it's a great location. You're going through Hungary and Austria, and we're going to make a little stop and a special occasion thing in Vienna on the Danube River. And also, this is a new location for me, even though I've been teaching about the wines from there for so many years, but this will be a little bit of a new location. It's in July 22nd of 2026. Is it almost 2026?
I mean, we're talking like 8 months from now.
Yeah.
As far as that goes. And I can say I have been on the Danube with Alma Waterways, and
how was the wine?
Everything about it was fantastic. Budapest was incredible. And then Vienna was, just mesmerizing. Being along the river and just looking, to both sides of you. Because what's really fascinating, if you've never been on a river cruise, you see the banks the whole time you're on the cruise. So if you are thinking, oh, I can't do it, I get seasick, it's not like an ocean cruise. You can see land the entire time, and it's just smooth. The only time you maybe feel a little rock is when you're going through the locks and dams, because they have to lower or raise you, and a lot of times
just a bump.
Yeah, it really is. But it is a fantastic way not only to now try some of these wines, but to see a part of Europe, and you just get on the boat, unpack your bags, you get out at a specific little destination, and then, explore that region and come back and get on the boat, and you have the comfort of your room and have dinner there. It is just a fantastic way to see Europe, in my opinion.
And I agree. And if you don't like wine, come with us. You'll have a great time, because there's some great craft cocktails, beer, other choices. You're not a drinker, that's all right. We want you to. We'll have a lot of fun, and we'll be looking at the history. And so
much history. That's a great point, because I remember on my first river cruise, and the first one we did was the Rhine, which is another fantastic river cruise. But, you're talking about these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of year-old places, and then we get back, because we live in a historic neighborhood here in St. Louis, and our house was built in 1876. Like, that's not so old after all.
Yeah, it kind of puts things into perspective a little bit.
Really
Yeah,
does.
the history. Yeah.
So that's a fantastic trip coming up, and you can learn more at altairtravel.com. But then we have lots of opportunities for people to get out and taste some wine here in the St. Louis region over the next couple of months. Tell us about some of those.
Well, I started putting a list together, and then I realized there's way more than, I know that there's an open house at Schnucks Crestwood coming up on the 19th. The Wine Barrel Anniversary, you can come down there in Sunset Hills, and everybody's kind of doing some tasting events. Mm-hmm. We will have a full list on our Facebook page, Ward on Wine Facebook page, and you can also email me, and I'll give you some more information. I'm going to be out like from now until Thanksgiving.
You're busy. This is your
every day.
Busy season.
Yeah, and I'm lining up some great guests that we're going to have on our Friday show coming up. The Friday show on the 21st is going to be packed. I hope you're ready for that.
I can't wait.
I've got some good guests for that, and good subjects to talk about that'll help people. They're last minute by then, the last minute types of things. But if you're really looking for something to make this holiday special, and even if you're on a budget and you don't want to spend, we can find something for you that's nice. That's the whole thing. I want people to have a nice, enjoyable time together and have the right wines or spirits. I want you to bring the right gifts. And like, I love whiskey, and I love it when people gift whiskey to me. But it doesn't have to be a Pappy Van Winkle? I would
Right.
love that if somebody did. You want to give me, that's great. But there's so many options that you can get that people will really like. And we can help you with that.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about that more in the upcoming weeks as well. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that, we mention, we talk about these tastings, but it truly does make a difference because maybe you get stuck in a rut and you know what you love and that's always your go-to thing, but you might be missing out. And when you and Mary, your wife's team, is out pouring these things, I mean, this is a free tasting. You just sample something and you might find your next favorite wine. And I've mentioned this before. I was so stuck on Bailey's Irish Cream because I like a little Irish cream in my coffee on the weekends, just to kind of a little something that makes me feel fancier. And there was a Five Farms tasting one day. And, it kind of looks like a crock bottle. And it is a little pricier than the
Not
Bailey's.
much, though. A little bit.
And we took a little sample of it. And I don't usually drink it straight, but I, then tried it. And we've never gone back. It is so good. And I would have never grabbed that bottle off the shelf without tasting that. And that's the same when it comes to whiskeys and wines across the board. So if you're curious, it really is beneficial to go to the Word on Wine Facebook page and find out when they're going to be out and about, sampling things near you, because it's a great opportunity that I think sometimes we sleep on.
You should taste whatever you can before you spend, if you've never tasted it before. And you brought up a great example of the power of having a tasting. And then the one thing I love is when you're giving out a free small taste, it's not going to make you, impaired. You do make friends that way when it's free and you can give something away. And coming up in a few weeks, we're going to be out pouring Quilt Cabernet.
Oh, that's another favorite.
Belle Gloss. Now, I don't have those dates yet. We're working on it. But it might be, we're looking at Sunday the 23rd. We're going to have some tastings out at some of the stores, both St. Louis County and St. Charles County. And those are great. Those are more expensive, and that's why I bring it up.
Because you probably do want to taste that before you go and spend $30, $40, $50, unless you're just, adventurous and don't care what you're getting. But
But most people want to at least know a little bit. Even if they can afford it, they don't want to be embarrassed by bringing the wrong thing. So you can really we can help you make all your choices.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys have learned a little something on this Sunday afternoon. I know I always do when I'm with Mike Ward and my mouth tends to water. And it's a good time to then open that bottle of wine and maybe watch 60 Minutes or listen to what's up next here on the Big 550 KTRS. Mike Ward, it is always a pleasure to join you on these Sunday afternoons, and thank each and every one of you for sitting in with us today. Cheers to you, my friends.
Cheers, everybody.